Welcome back to another edition of Viper Bytes, and welcome back NFL and fantasy football season. We are ready to roll. We're going to do a little bit of a week one preview for you today, break down some of these matchups, go through the whole slate of games. We got some fantastic heavyweight matchups, and we got some matchups that are heavy for fantasy football. That all said, a little bit of a disclaimer here. This is more of a predictive analysis type show today. You know what? We don't have the trends yet. We have trends based on last year to kind of work off of, but you know what? Week one's kind of that trendsetter game. You know, anything can happen in week one. Look what's gone down in college football this week. You know, Montana knocking off Washington for the first time in over 100 years. You know, we've got some other matchups there. Tulane giving Oklahoma the runaround there. We had Minnesota sticking with Ohio State for the longest period of time. Anything can happen that first week. Last year, we had the Jacksonville Jaguars take it to the Indianapolis Colts as a matchup no one saw coming and just kind of further cemented Minshew mania there until it fizzled off towards the end. But you know what? Let's take it live. Let's dive right in here. Let's head to Thursday Night Football. Let's talk Dallas Cowboys. Let's talk Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What does this matchup look like for you for fantasy? Now, full disclosure, 9 times out of 10, Thursday Night Football, I am not starting anyone. I'm always afraid of that big dreaded 0 sitting in your stat sheet, waiting until Sunday to get some football action to see if you can make up that ground. If you struggle on Thursday night, there's a good chance Sunday may not be enjoyable for you. But that said, you got some big time matchups here going on with Sunday Night Football. You've got the high-powered offense there, Dak-led Cowboys with Amari Cooper or Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. All three of these wide receivers are going to flirt with 1,000 yards this season, which is going to be fantastic. But let's pump the brakes a little bit on the Dallas Cowboys offense for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Dak Prescott is coming off an injury. We know it was substantial. He missed a lot of time last year. He's missed a lot of time in the training camp. He's been there, but he hasn't quite been Dak yet. So, you know, there's going to be a couple weeks for him before Dak gets his groove back, a la Stella. But you know what? That's when they're going to rely on Ezekiel Elliott to kind of get that running game going, get that offense running through the run game. I think Elliott's ready to eat here in 2021. He kind of maybe fizzled off towards the end because Dak wasn't there. Dallas wasn't really competitive. But we'll see how this shapes out. Now, on the flip side, you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've got a formidable threesome there with Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, who's looking at his another 1,000-yard season. That would be 8 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons if he can put it all together this year. Chris Godwin. Now, the difference between both these teams is Tampa Bay has a good defense. You know, you got Carlton there, you got Bunting there. They'll be attacking the wide receivers. On the flip side, Dallas's defense is not good. We know that. There's no sugarcoating that. But it'll be interesting to see what guys like Micah Parsons, Jabril Cox can contribute right away to that defense. See if they can bring that stock up, improve it somewhat, and then see what the Bucs do for a running game. Is it going to be Uncle Lenny? Is it going to be playoff Lenny? Is it going to be regular season Lenny? Is it going to be Ronald Jones? I don't know. That's what I'm looking forward to hear the most. That said, Dak and Brady, you start both of them. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, both of them are wide receiver ones. You know what? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they're both wide receiver 2s. Antonio Brown's an easy flex. Michael Gallup, I'm probably pumping the brakes and not starting him. Ezekiel Elliott is a must start as well. So that's there's a lot of fantasy implications going on in that first game to get everyone kind of excited, get everything back into it. What better way to start the season off than Tampa Bay and Dallas? Now, our next stop, we're going to go to Nashville. We're going to go to Tennessee here. We're going to talk Tennessee Titans hosting the Arizona Cardinals. What does this mean? Well, we got Kyler Murray, we got DeAndre Hopkins. Both are starts, no matter how you look at that there. On the flip side, Derrick Henry, you're starting him. A.J. Brown, you're starting him. Julio Jones, you're probably putting him into a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type option. To me, there's no reason not to believe that Julio fills exactly the same role that Corey Davis had last year. It was Corey Davis season last year. It's Corey Davis season. You know what? It's always Corey Davis season. So when we take a look at this a little bit deeper, we want to get in on this, and Tennessee's defense is not the greatest. On the flip side, Arizona's secondary is a little bit of a weakness as well. So A.J. Brown and, you know what, Julio, I think they're going to have big games here this week. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to have a very good week as well. And how is that going to work out? Chase Edmonds, James Conner, I'm probably pumping the brakes on both of them. Maybe in PPR, I might flex Chase Edmonds. But I want to see how this backfield plays out as well. Just like Tampa Bay's, I'm a little hesitant on who the starter is. We know it's Chase Edmonds on paper, but what's that really going to translate to? I don't know. At least with Tennessee, we know it's Derrick Henry. We know it's A.J. Brown. We know it's Julio Jones. We know these are the guys that are going to be making a difference here for your fantasy squads. Now, heading over to Washington, we got the Washington football team, and we've got the Los Angeles Chargers. Woo-wee! This is going to be a fantastic matchup. You got maybe the most devastating, talented defensive front in football there. You've got Chase Young. You have Montez Sweat. You got Daron Payne. You got Ioannidis. You got all these guys there that Washington can attack you with. Going against a team that doesn't travel from west to east very well in the Chargers. But here's the thing. Last year, Herbert was hit more than any other quarterback. I think he was hit like 80 times. What do the Chargers do? They addressed it through the draft. They brought in Slater. They brought in guys through free agency. They've really improved this offensive line. They know exactly where their bread is buttered, where that franchise is going. You know, Justin Herbert has made the transformation now in the offseason. He went from Flo to Sid from Toy Story, back to the Flo going again. I think the Chargers get rolling here. This is a fantastic matchup. I'm going to lean towards advantage Washington just because of that travel from west to east. But I'm really excited to see what Ryan Fitzpatrick can do with the likes of Diami Brown, who is a great guy to have on your best ball teams. You're probably not starting him. Terry McLaurin must start. You're getting him in your lineup. Maybe the QB2, Fitzpatrick kind of fits that role, but he's probably a guy you're probably leaving on your bench here right away. Antonio Gibson, you're firing him up regardless, especially in PPR. And then on the other side, you got another one of those PPR studs there, Eckler. Except with Austin Eckler, I might put him more as a flex option in standard leagues, but in PPR, he's definitely an RB1. Keenan Allen, fire him up. Justin Herbert, fire him up. Tons of great plays here for the Chargers and the Washington Football Club. Definitely want to tune into this. I'm excited for this matchup. This is one of those great matchups I'm going to watch intently, what that battle on the offensive line, what that trench looks like. Can the Chargers hold up against that Washington pass rush? That's what will be determined how this game breaks down once all said and done. Now, another matchup, we go from one that's exciting to one that is probably not the greatest on paper, but it's got some huge fantasy implications as well. The Minnesota Vikings are traveling to Cincinnati. You've got Jefferson, you've got Thielen, you've got Chase, you got Boyd, you got Higgins, you got Burrow, you got Cousins, and you got Chris Herndon. No, we're not. You know what? No, scratch that. No, it's never Chris Herndon. Okay, you know I don't even know why that came up. I just kind of got caught up in Twitter and everything that was going on there. Jefferson is a wide receiver one. Thielen's a wide receiver two. And then you've got all those receivers there in Cincinnati. They're all wide receiver two, straight across the board. I think Cincinnati has one of the best trio of wide receivers. We talked about Dallas and how they have an option to get all three guys over 1,000 yards. Tampa Bay is in the same situation with all three receivers able to get over 1,000 yards. I think Cincinnati has that option. Joe Burrow, if that offensive line can sustain any kind of consistency throughout the season and give it any kind of protection to Joe Burrow, that's the one thing I want to look at. I want to watch Joe Burrow in that pocket when they've got the likes of Danielle Hunter coming down on him here. Is he going to step up? Is he going to be able to take that hit? He's looking good in training camp, but football is 90% mental, right? So we're going to see how he handles that, pressure, when the animal is flying, when the bodies are flying around his legs, what's he going to do? How is he going to respond? If he can respond and give you some consistent quarterback play, you know what? All three of these wide receivers, Boyd, obviously my favorite of the three, Higgins, close number two, and Chase. You know what? These drops in the preseason from Jamar Chase, not to worry about it. I think he's going to be just fine when it's all said and done. You might get that Jerry Jeudy type discount from him. Thank your stars for that. Jamar Chase is going to be fine. He's a stud. Get him in your lineup. All three of these guys, every wide receiver here. You know what? Start them all because the defenses aren't that good either. You know what I mean? We've got some makeover going on in Minnesota. We got some changes on the defensive side for Cincinnati. Cincinnati's defense and secondary is improved compared to last season on paper. We'll see what it translates to on the field. Now, Joe Mixon, another guy, get him in your lineup. Joe Mixon, PPR, standard, it don't matter. I'm getting Joe Mixon. I got him as my running back 11 for the season. You know he's going to play. He's an RB1. Get him in there. I love myself some Joe Mixon. Now, here's maybe another one of those games that it's not really sexy on paper, but you know what? Revenge games are always sweet. You got Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers hosting the New York Jets. First off, let's talk Jets football here. You know, I got the change in the guard. Darnold was ushered out of there. Zach Wilson looks like he's the real deal. I love Zach Wilson. He may be the rookie of the year, in my opinion, early on. Games haven't played yet. But you know what? Vera Tucker, they got in there. Mecca Becton, they got him in there. They've really solidified that one side of the line. I really feel that Zach Wilson's going to get comfortable and get in the groove. He's got the chemistry developing with Elijah Moore. And we know Elijah Moore is going to fill that role as that flex option, wide receiver 2 kind of guy. You're going to feel comfortable with him, especially in PPR. But Corey Davis season, I just talked about this. Corey Davis was getting peppered by targets courtesy of one Zach Wilson in the preseason. You know, there's that connection going on right away. He's that guy you're getting in much later in rounds who's going to be a wide receiver 2 this year. Put him in your lineup, trust him. Things are going to go good. Now, Carolina, you know what? If there is a weakness on this defense that they've been revamping for a couple of years, it is that secondary. You know, Dante Jackson, he's still there. He's a guy you could pick apart. J.C. Horn, love him. South Carolina alum. Going to be a stud in this league. But we'll see how that translates here week 1, how that's going to look like, because I love myself some Corey Davis. Now, you go on to the other side. You've got this revenge game coming in huge for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's going to try and channel his inner Peter Venkman. Who are you going to call? You're going to call the Ghostbusters here. We're not worried about it in Carolina. He's going to hit his buddy there, good buddy there, Shorty there, Robbie Anderson. If you've seen Scary Movie 2, you know the reference right off the get-go. Scary Movie, actually, it doesn't matter which one you watch. It's all the same. Robbie Anderson, Sam Darnold, they had a connection in with the Jets there, their last stint. Now, this is something I think is going to get rekindled. I think it's going to be a fantastic combination this year. I think this is maybe your low-key best stack for DFS in week 1. Now, Carolina's got some other options. Last year, Teddy Bridgewater, he essentially supported 3 wide receiver 2s last year. Now, can Sam Darnold do the same? Out Curtis Samuel, but in is Terrace Marshall. So you got DJ Moore, you got Robbie Anderson, you got Terrace Marshall, who maybe not be scoring big numbers in PPR, but in standard, watch out for him in the end zone. I think he's going to be that difference maker. He's got that Justin Jefferson-esque type potential in year 1. The guy we're not talking about yet, but come to the end of the year, Terrace Marshall, he's going to be on everyone's radar. Everyone's going to be talking about him. You hear him on Twitter. People are already hyping him up. I think he's going to be the real deal. He's one of my top rookie wide receivers coming out of this class. Keep an eye on him in this matchup. Now, we're going to move on to another matchup that's great for fantasy, maybe not so good for football, especially if you like defensive football, because neither one of these defenses has a defense. You know what I mean? It's going to be struggling. We got the Eagles. We got the Falcons. Huge numbers here going to be put up on the offensive side of the ball. You got Matt Ryan. You got Kyle Pitts. You've got the man himself there, Calvin Ridley. We know Calvin Ridley ain't no Juju Smith-Schuster. He's going to take that reins now that Julio's gone, and he's going to run with it. We've seen him have success in Julio's absence. We know he can do it. Don't be afraid there. We know Matt Ryan this year is going to throw for 700 times, and those numbers are going to be heavily leaning towards Calvin Ridley. Russell Gage is a sneaky flex play, and Kyle Pitts is a guy I want to believe in. The talent is there. He's like a unicorn. We've heard that from my boy Bo. He's mentioned that a few times. He's not like any other tight end we've seen. He's basically a wide receiver playing the tight end position more so than anyone else. I can go into details of some of the greatest tight end rookie seasons, Gronk, Evan Ingram, Jeremy Shockey, but I don't know if it quite comes down to how we're going to be looking at Kyle Pitts when the season's done. It's really tough for rookies to have impact their rookie year, but as a tight end. But I think Kyle Pitts is going to probably see himself more as Julio Jones, a younger, just as athletic, maybe not as fast Julio Jones. And that's basically how I think the Falcons are going to look at him. That's how they're going to treat him. You're going to see a lot of 2 tight end. You can't quite see. There we go. My other hand's right here. 2 tight end sets. Hayden Hurst, he's going to get himself a lot of time because I think Atlanta is really going to be using Pitts as a wide receiver more so than anything else. Now, on the other side of things, Eagles, Jalen Hurts, he has the potential to be the quarterback 1 this week in fantasy football. We've watched this Atlanta team for a couple of years now, how they struggle on the defensive side of the ball. Jalen Hurts is a guy who could throw for 300 yards and run for 100 as well. You get that Konami code, kind of cheat code there. We talk about Kyler Murray. We talk about Lamar Jackson, what they bring to the table. Jalen Hurts brings the same type of offensive prowess to this Eagles team. They've got Devonta Smith, who's going to get peppered all season. I think 120 targets, 130 targets is definitely in the realm of possibilities for Devonta Smith. Jalen Reagor's there as well. You know, on the running back side, you got Miles Sanders there, Kenneth Gainwell. So how does this all look? You're starting. I'm okay starting Matt Ryan in this matchup because I think the Eagles defense is not that good. So if you were the guy who kind of waited on a quarterback and Matt Ryan was the guy that kind of fell into your lap, don't be afraid to start him. Definitely a solid QB2. I think he's going to have QB1 upside this week. Calvin Ridley's an automatic start. Kyle Pitts, yeah, absolutely. You don't have to put him in the lineup. You draft him that way. You probably dropped him in the first 5 or 6 rounds of a redraft. Put him in the lineup too. Mike Davis, if you have a spot for an RB3 or a flex, he's a solid option there. Now on the Eagles, obviously I think Jalen Hurts is a start. I think you got to get him in your lineup one way or the other. And I also believe that Devonta Smith has a solid flex appeal, maybe a wide receiver this time with some serious upside. Miles Sanders, maybe an RB2, definitely a flex option. We'll see how this translates. I want to see how the Eagles use him this year. Last year and the year before, I didn't feel that Miles Sanders was being used to his full potential. Now that Hurts has a full offseason to kind of get that offense under his belt, maybe Sanders will see a little bit of an uptick in productivity. Now, another matchup. Now, this one is really one of the ones that's going to catch a lot of fans' eyes. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Buffalo Bills. Neither one of these defenses is what I think we want it to be. A couple years ago, we were talking about the Buffalo Bills as being one of the best defenses in the league. We haven't seen it. They've gone on. They've revamped it there. They brought in some guys like rookies and young players, AJ Espinosa, Rizzo, guys they're bringing in here, but they're going to take some time. Right now, it's still the old dogs there and Mario Addison kind of running that defensive front and Oliver. So we'll see how this defense plays out. Pittsburgh's defense is not what it used to be. Gone is Bud Dupree. They've lost a little of that edge presence, but they've still got TJ Watt. When you got TJ Watt, you're going to have pressure no matter how you look at it. Now, let's flip it to what people really wanted to listen to, the fantasy output on the offensive side of the ball. Ben Roethlisberger is more of a QB2 this week, but he's got 3 wide receivers. Here we go. The trio of receivers who could all flirt with 1,000 yards. Now, they're all wide receiver 2s, no doubt about it. Different options as far as scoring goes. Chase Claypool, you're definitely getting him in your lineup, especially in standard leagues, or maybe Juju Smith-Schuster is more of a PPR play than a standard. All of them are wide receiver 2s. Depending on the scoring system that you're running, Juju may slide into a flex in standard, but he's going to slide into a wide receiver 2 in PPR. Chase Claypool, flip side, in PPR, he's probably more of a flex guy, but standard, he's definitely the guy you want to get in your lineup. And Deontay Johnson, you're plugging him in. Solid wide receiver 2, upside to be wide receiver 1. See who Tre'Davious White targets for the most part in this game. Now flipping over to Washington. Najee Harris. Let's talk about the running back there in Pittsburgh. You're going to start him too, no doubt about it. He's going to be a RB1. This isn't the same Buffalo defense that scared us a few years back. You can run on this team from time to time. Najee Harris can do that. He can flex out into the slot. He can flex out wide, catch some passes when allotted the opportunity. Now with Buffalo, Josh Allen, you're going to start him. He's a must-start all season. Don't get cute. Start your studs. I talked about at the top of the hour. You start your studs. Stephon Diggs, you start him. Now, where it gets kind of cute is how deep are your rosters? What do you need? Who else do you need? Can Cole Beasley be the best slot in the National Football League for a second year in a row? He wasn't all pro last year. Just saying, pump the brakes. We're still not going to start him as a wide receiver, too. You know what? We might even not even put him in our lineup as a flex because of everything that's going on. But Beasley's a guy that should still be on your radar. You should still be thinking of him. Same with Gabriel Davis. Same with Emmanuel Sanders. These are good players that I'm not ready to put in my lineup. I don't trust them this week. I want to see how this offense plays out, what it's going to look like moving forward. And then at the running back position, you want to avoid this at all costs. If you have to draft running backs and you waited and you waited and you waited, and Devin Singletary and Zach Moss is kind of the guys that landed on your lap, and you need a running back too, and these are your options, Zach Moss could fill that need. He may get a goal line carry. He may punch one in there, but they're no more than flex appeals. And even then, I'm pumping the brakes on both of them. Now, heading over to Detroit. Now, I was on a show here earlier, and I'm always looking for that. Who's that game? What's that one game that could turn into Jacksonville Indy from last year? Who's the one team that we're not thinking is going to win and is going to pull off a huge upset? I think the Detroit Lions may be that team this year, with San Francisco traveling from San Fran all the way out to Detroit. Axel Foley is here. He's got his Letterman jacket on. He's ready to start cheering. We'll see how it breaks down. But you know what? DeAndre Swift, maybe an RB2 for you. Jared Goff, you're probably avoiding. Terrell Williams, you're not pumping him into your lineup. Monroe St. Brown, unless you have to start a rookie, you're probably holding off on him as well. We're probably looking at this Detroit Lions offense and seeing how it translates to this week and what that trend looks like going forward. I'm not ready to start any lines other than maybe TJ Hawkinson. You're going to probably put him in as your tight end 1 because there's a huge drop-off at tight ends this year. We know what that's like. There's a huge gap between 1 and 3 from last year. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we move on to the show. And in San Francisco, you're going to fire up who? Who are you going to fire up? George Kittle. George Kittle's a guarantee. Fire up Brandon Ayuk. You're going to get him in your lineup. I'd be waiting on this running back by committee approach here too as well. Is it going to be Mostert? Are you going to be able to put Trey Sermon in? Both these guys might have some flex appeal, but I'd hold off on either one of them until we see how it's going to shape itself out. I'm not ready to trust Deebo Samuel either, so he's another guy that's going to sit on my bench this week until we see exactly how he's going to be deployed. And you might have to wait another week, because if I'm wrong and Detroit doesn't pull off the upset and San Francisco gets this game way out ahead and the game script completely turns, then you may have to hold off on seeing how this 49ers team shapes up for fantasy purposes. Next matchup on the docket, Seattle Seahawks, Indianapolis Colts. Woo! This is going to be a good one here too, because both teams are playoff caliber teams. They're going to see a lot of action here. Seattle, you know what? Russell Wilson, he's starting. DK Metcalf, you're starting him. You're going to start Tyler Lockett. You might end up regretting it, because I don't see the consistency there with him this year. I love what Indianapolis does on defense. So Lockett may be that guy that struggles week 1. DK goes off. Then teams adjust and focus on DK, and Lockett goes off next week. I think that's kind of how it played out last year. Lockett had 2 games where he absolutely destroyed teams, but very inconsistent every other week. Running the ball, Chris Carson, put him in your lineup. Put him in as an RB1. I know Indianapolis has a good defense based on last year. Worst case scenario, he's an RB2. You're going to put Chris Carson in. He's one of the most underrated running backs in the league. Get him in your lineup. Please do yourself a favor. Indianapolis, sounds like Carson Wentz is getting the start. T.Y. Hilton is out. What does that mean? It means you're maybe starting Jonathan Taylor. You might throw in a little Nyheim Hines. Marlon Mack, I want to see how he does before I put him in my lineup at all. I think it's going to be Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines as the running backs you want to get in your lineup. I think Nyheim Hines adds that passing, that PPR value. And obviously Jonathan Taylor's a stud right across the board. He's still an RB1 no matter how you look at it. I got him on the back end of that, about RB12 right now. So, these are guys you're putting in your lineup, seeing what happens. Quentin Nelson, he's back as well. I think Indianapolis is ready to run the ball. They're going to pound the ball. They're going to have to, because I don't trust Paris Campbell. I don't trust anyone in that thing. Michael Pittman, I'm not sold on him. I think he's going to be a good wide receiver. I'm not sold on him yet. The one guy I am curious to do is my boy Strack in there and see how he thrives in the Indianapolis Colts offense, if he gets an option in the red zone, and see if he can come back with 6. But we're not quite there where we're getting with sneaky plays. We're going to go with what works for us here. Now, moving on, perhaps the game of the week. Last year, the Browns were this close, or this close is probably the best way to put it, from pulling off the upset, if you want to call it that, of the Kansas City Chiefs and advancing to the Super Bowl and representing the AFC. Now, we know what the Browns can do. We know they're full of studs there. Baker Mayfield's a QB2 this week. I'm probably not starting him if I have a better option. Odell Beckham, I'm kind of maybe a wide receiver 2 flex. Same with Jarvis Landry, wide receiver 2 flex. Nick Chubb, automatic start. Doesn't matter. I'm starting him. It doesn't matter what kind of league. Kareem Hunt, another revenge type game. You're putting Kareem Hunt in it, especially in PPR, in that flex role. With the Kansas City Chiefs, Mahomes, no-brainer. Don't overthink anything. Especially even though the Cleveland Browns are an improved defense. If they can get some pressure up the middle, this could change things a little bit. We know what Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. They can give you a pass rush much like Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul gave the Bucs against Mahomes last year in the Super Bowl, so we can see something very similar. But you're going to start Mahomes no matter what. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, you're putting them both in your lineup. Outside of that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a good RB2 this week. I think he's going to get involved in the passing game, but do not expect him to be that RB1. I wouldn't expect him to be that, but some solid options there for this Kansas City-Cleveland game. Next on the docket, Denver Broncos, New York Giants. Is Barkley going to play? How much is he going to play? It sounds like he's going to play, but I would be thinking his touches are going to be limited to about 20 touches in this game. You still have to start him. You know what I mean? You're still going to put him in there, hope for RB2 type numbers. He's an RB1, but you're going to hope for an RB2 out of him, and that's kind of how you're going to roll this week. Other than that, maybe Sterling Shepard, you could put in a flex role. We don't know. We don't know it's going to be Shepard. We don't know if it's going to be Slade. It's not. Kenny Galladay is banged up with that hammy, and again, whatever that injury is, it's going to be Kenny Galladay. He's always hurt. You know what I mean? So how is this going to shape Evan Ingram? We don't know how this pass catching role is going to break down for Daniel Jones in that pecking order. So I'm kind of avoiding this right now at all costs. I'm not starting any Giants wide receivers unless I absolutely have to. If I'm in a deep league, then possibly. Now flipped over to Denver. I think Teddy Bridgewater, we mentioned him supporting 3 wide receiver 2s last year in Carolina. Don't worry about Cortland Sutton. Don't worry about Jerry Jeudy. They're going to be efficient. They're going to make the most of their opportunities. They're both firmly in the wide receiver 2 category. I don't know if you noticed, there's a lot of wide receiver 2s and a heck of a lot more wide receiver 3s this year in fantasy. And then you're looking at the split backfield for week 1 between Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Who do you start? I don't know if you can start with confidence either one of them. Maybe you could put them both in as a flex or an RB3 or however that shapes out. This is one of those backfields I'm waiting to see how it breaks down. I think by week 8, week 9, it might be a Javonte Williams type backfield, but Melvin Gordon, I think, is going to get 60% of the carries early on. And I think this is a team in Denver that could be battling for a playoff spot late in the season. I think they're a team that could definitely flirt with 10-7, which might be good enough to get them into the playoffs as a wild card, depending on how the tiebreakers fall. And if that's the case, I really think they'll rely on the veteran presence of Melvin Gordon going forward. So just keep that in mind as we move along here. Next up, Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints playing in Florida. Just so that Packers fans can't just flood a market. They're going to have to pay a little extra to get to this game this week. Who are you starting? You're going to start. The Aaron Rodgers petty revenge tour begins now. You know what I'm saying? You got Rodgers, start him. Devontae Adams, start him. No doubters. Aaron Jones, start him. These guys are all QB1, wide receiver 1, RB1 players. Robert Tonyan, yeah, you know what? Because of the position, you're going to probably start him too. You're not going to like it, but you're going to do it. Between him and Logan Thomas last year coming out of nowhere, you kind of have to force your hand. You're kind of putting him in there. You kind of draft him a little bit higher than, especially if you missed on those top 3 guys, top 4 guys. You probably waited. That's the tight end you ended up with. So you're probably going to fire him up. Now, on the flip side, the Saints. Oh, let's see here. What do we say about the Saints? Jameis Winston could go off, but he could also give you 4 interceptions this week. I'm not starting him. I want to see how he does in this offense. Marquez Callaway is maybe a wide receiver 3 that give you a wide receiver 2 upside. So you might want to find a way to get him in your lineup. And Alvin Kamara, RB1. This offense is going to run through him. We've seen what his in-game versus out-of-game splits are with Michael Thomas not in the lineup. It's 2 completely different fantasy production standpoints for Alvin Kamara. You're looking at from 3 receptions a game to 7 receptions a game. You're looking at huge numbers. You're looking at 18 points per game in fantasy to 30 points per game in fantasy without Michael Thomas. So Kamara's a guy you're starting. Now, secretly, my little sneaky guy is, especially we're talking about that tight end position, Juwan Johnson. Get him in. I just have a gut feeling that Juwan Johnson is a sneaky play. I think he could be that guy that sneaks into relevancy, much like Robert Tonyan did, much like Logan Thomas did. I think he's that guy who's going to go from obscurity to relativity in fantasy football this year. So keep an eye on him. Former wide receiver, I believe it was Tennessee, now kind of playing the tight end position for the Saints. He's a guy I want to kind of watch this week. I don't want to put him in my lineup, but my gut tells me he's a guy you want to get on that roster now before everyone else gets in on him. Next up on this docket, we're going to head to the Roll Tide game. We're going to talk Mac Jones. We're going to talk Tua. We're 2 worlds colliding right back where we all started. You know what? But can you start anyone here? Do you want to start Tua? Maybe as a QB2. Mac Jones, maybe as a low-end QB2. Guys, I'm starting for sure from the New England Patriots. I'm going to start Jacoby Myers. I think this guy is fantastic. He was basically a wide receiver 13, I believe it was, from weeks 8 on last year, averaged 13.1 points per game. Once he got starting out of the slot, you talk about Patriots going back to 2007 to 2019, that slot position has yielded 16.4 points per game. This is something I think Jacoby Myers is going to be a league winner. And I think it starts right now, regardless of what you feel about this Miami Dolphins defense, which I love. It takes over Flores' kind of personality here. Damian Harris, start him there. And you know what? In a weird kind of way, I really see Ramondre Stevenson kind of playing the LeGarrette Blount type role where he's going to come in and steal some touchdowns. Everyone's like, oh, great, Cam Newton's gone. Value up on Damian Harris. Well, not so fast because I think they've got their pounder there in Ramondre Stevenson. So I think he's going to be more of a vulture to Damian Harris than what Cam Newton might have been. Now, on the flip side, Miami Dolphins, Will Fuller suspended. This is the one game he'll miss. Tua's not quite there. Myles Gaskins, we don't know what's going on with this running back with his backfield. I want to wait and see what happens there. It's going to be Gaskins. It's going to be Brown. I don't know how it's going to shape out. Offensively, you've got obviously no Fuller, but you've got Jalen Waddle, unbelievable player, maybe a flex option, great on best ball. You got Devontae Parker. He's going to be there. Guys, maybe a flex as well. I'm not comfortable starting either one of them. I want to see how it plays out. But if I had to start wide receiver in a wide receiver 2 role, it would be Jalen Waddle and hope for the best. I think he's got some huge upside this week, even against the Patriots, which we know they're going to be ready to roll. Moving on to the late night game here, we got the Chicago Bears, LA Rams, Andy Dalton, prime time. Ooh, sorry. I just about threw up in my mouth. Last time I trusted Andy Dalton on a primetime game, I ended up drinking a Big Mac smoothie. So you know exactly where my thoughts are on Andy Dalton. But you're still starting Allen Robinson. You're going to start David Montgomery. And I'll tell you what, you're starting Darnell Mooney, who is the guy who's going to blow up this year. I promises. ADP has him after the 10th round. You're getting him as wide receiver 44-ish, give or take. He's going to be in the top 24, in my opinion, this year. So make sure you're in on Darnell Mooney ahead of time. I am. Any league you're in with me, he's already gone. I've already got him on my roster. So that's where that's at. But Bears fans, I ask this question to you. Do you want Fields to start game 1 against Aaron Donald? Or do you want Andy Dalton to go in there in prime time, fail miserably, and then, you know what? Sorry, Andy, we gave you your opportunity. You were the veteran we trusted. Game didn't go the way we wanted. We're going to put the kid in. And then maybe the Justin Fields era begins in Chicago. Maybe that's secretly what they're talking about. Everyone wants to give Nagy a hard time. Maybe that's his play the whole time. Now, if Andy Dalton somehow surprises us all and absolutely balls out in a primetime game, I'm sorry, Bears fan. I got nothing for you after that. Now, flipping over to the Rams, what an exciting team this is going to be. We know their defense is good. We know McVay can make some good calls on offense. He's kind of a genius or something. I've heard that. Now you've replaced Jared Goff, who was a liability on this offense, with Matt Stafford, who's got a hose for an arm, and he's got some weapons to use. Deshaun Jackson came over. You know they're going to be able to stretch the field. Robert Woods, maybe the most disrespected wide receiver in the game. He's there in Los Angeles. You got Cooper Kupp. He's still there. You know what? Van Jefferson, maybe he factors in somewhere as well, but very good options in the passing game. You got Tyler Higbee there at tight end. How am I looking at this here? Robert Woods to start. Cooper Kupp's to start. Deshaun Jackson is more of a best ball kind of guy. Tyler Higbee, I'm not trusting here yet this week. Darrell Henderson, let's put him as an RB2, maybe a flex option there. These are guys you're getting a lot. Matt Stafford, I think, is another QB1 you're going to put in this lineup. I know Chicago's pretty good, but they let go of their best secondary player there in Fuller. He's off to Denver this year. I think the Rams are going to attack the secondary of the Bears. I think they're going to get there. Now, the game changer is, and it always has been, if you look at this Bears defense, if Akeem Hicks is in there and he's controlling the middle, this is a different Bears team. Okay? If Akeem Hicks is in there and he's controlling the middle and he's getting pressure there, that means that's opening things up for Khalil Mack. That could make things a little bit difficult for Matt Stafford in this Rams offense. Now, moving on, Monday Night Football. Las Vegas, lights are up. Stadium is going to see fans for the first time here. Baltimore Ravens, Las Vegas Raiders. Here we go. Lamar Jackson, you're starting him. There's no doubt about it. And I can't believe I'm going to say this right now, but it is week 1. It is my Raiders. I'll come out and say it. I'm a Raiders fan. Start Sammy Watkins. Find a way to get him in. It's week 1. He's going to go off. It happens, and it's going to be on my Raiders, and it is going to be like the worst feeling ever. Like, I think I'd rather drink a Big Mac smoothie than watch Sammy Watkins go off on my Raiders. After week 1, it's never Sammy. Don't even put him in your lineup. Cut him, drop him, do what you want. If you can trade him, do it. I don't care what. Whatever you can get for him, take it, because it's never Sammy. But week 1, he is bound to blow up, especially against my Raiders, because that's just how things work out for me. Now, a little bit further in here, Gus Edwards. Fire Gus Edwards up. You know what? I think he's a solid RB2, high-end RB2 against the Raiders. We'll see how this new improved defense kind of worked out. They've got in some bodies here. McCoy they brought in. KJ Wright they brought in as a linebacker. You know what? Denzel Perryman, they brought him in. So they've done some work on their defense. They've drafted for the defense. It's still the Raiders defense. So it's a work in project. It's process here. I want to see how it all works out. So yeah, Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson, you're starting. Sammy Watkins, you're starting because it is week 1. And you know what? Mark Andrews, you might as well throw him in there because they do struggle against the tight end. See if Corey Littleton can stay with them. Nicholas Morrow, he's on IR there for the Raiders. We'll see how it goes. Maybe they get Trevin Morrigan there. It depends on how they're going to cover. I'm really interested to see how this Raiders defense works. On the flip side, can we stop disrespecting the Raiders as an offense? We're talking about a team there. Derek Carr, he threw for over 4,000 yards last year. We're talking about a team that was top 12 in offense and scoring and yardage. And no one's talking about it. They just want to disrespect Derek Carr. They want to disrespect this offense. Can you trust anyone on this offense? No, absolutely not. Darren Waller is the one guy you can trust. That is it. Darren Waller, period, end of story. Now, where it's going to get interesting is I think Derek Carr, who's finished as a QB 12, QB 13, year in, year out, he's going to flirt with that again this year. He's going to be in that QB 12 to 14 range when it's all said and done. He's going to give you an excellent value at the QB2 position. You can pop him in as a QB2. This Ravens defense is good. We know Marlon Humphrey is going to be out there doing his thing. You know, Calais Campbell doing his thing. This team is going to be doing their thing on defense. It's not as good of a defense as what they have in the past, but they're still good. Now, what I'm watching here for the Raiders more so than any is how that ball at the next target lines up for the Raiders outside of Darren Waller. Is it going to be Henry Ruggs? Is he ready to take that step? You know what? Maybe he's hearing the noise that we're all saying here in the Twitterverse and whatnot. You know, he was the first wide receiver drafted, and he's not even a top 10 wide receiver in that draft class right now. Like, he needs to step it up this year. Is it going to be Hunter Renfrow, who literally led all these wide receivers in red zone targets last year? Is Hunter Renfrow the guy you want to get? Or is it going to be Edwards? You know what? We're talking about Edwards. He's the name everyone wants to bring up right now. I think he's going to give you a solid wide receiver 2 for all the season, but I'm not putting him in my lineup this week. I'm sorry. I want to see how this all shapes out, where Derek Carr is going. We know he wants to go there. We know he had like an insane breakout age of like 17 at South Carolina. This guy's a freak of nature. He's a guy you want to get on your lineup. He's a guy you're going to stash here. I think he could break out this year in his second year. We'll see how it shakes out when it's all said and done. So there you have it. I basically tried to run through the entire slate of games here for this week, week 1. You know what? Enjoy it, man. Fantasy football is meant to be fun. Go out there, start your studs. Get the guys that you trusted yourself in drafting. Get them in your lineup. See how it works. Remember, this is all predictive analysis for week 1. After that, trends start to develop. We start to see certain things. We see how defenses adjust. Preseason, we didn't see anything. We might have seen 20% of a team's playbook in the preseason. So don't worry about it. And if you find yourself down after week 1, patience. Hold strong. Things change. Make your adjustments after. Don't get yourself into a panic after week 1, especially in fantasy, where you're chasing the points. Don't do that, or else you end up with Sammy Watkins. That all said, this is Viper Bytes, and we'll see you next time.